Oh, welcome to KVHC, and we're very pleased to have in the studio with us today Judge Don Willett of the Texas Supreme Court. We're here to ask him some questions and find out a little about his background, and I'm sure that he's got a message for all of you wonderful viewers out there in KVHC-TV land. Judge Don Willett, welcome, sir.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here. Tell us about your background. I understand you're not from a big city like Austin, where you are now.
Absolutely not. I grew up in a town of 32 people called Talty, T-A-L-T-Y.
And that's located where?
It's in northeast Texas in Kaufman County.
Okay.
And I joke that Talty was so small that our zip code actually began with a decimal. That passes for humor at the Supreme Court.
I understand.
Now, I grew up out in the country surrounded by cotton fields and cattle. And my mom raised my sister and I. My father passed away when I was very young. I was 6 years old, and he was 40.
Wow.
And my mom never finished high school, and she did what heroic moms do. She hunkered down and worked very hard to raise her children alone. And she waited tables at the local truck stop for about 55 years, and she finally retired a few years ago. But I did the math before I joined the Supreme Court. I found a website that will estimate the number of miles people walk in different occupations. And waitress, of course, was very high.
She's a marathoner.
That's right, every day. And over 55 years, she had walked roughly from the Earth to the moon.
Oh, goodness gracious.
So if you put your finger in the top corner of the panhandle and trace the border of Texas, it'll be about 75 times.
Around the...
Is how long she walked, how far she walked. And I tell people that every step she took brought me, a grateful son, one step closer to this incredible honor of serving you and 25 million other Texans on the Supreme Court.
That's fantastic. Now, you mentioned brothers and sisters. How many do you have?
One older sister, Donna. My given name is Donnie, so Donna and Donnie. And my mom raised us both after my father passed away.
That's great. Well, all power to her, and many accolades to
Absolutely.
her. And she lives here in Kerrville? Or?
She lives in my small town where I grew up. She turned 81 a few days ago.
Okay.
And is still fit and active and energetic, and hopefully will be with us for a long time to come.
So it's your mother-in-law that lives in...
Correct. My in-laws, my wife's parents, live here in Kerrville, Skip and Hannelore Mahaffey, over on Bluebonnet Drive. They've been here about between a dozen and 15 years, give or take.
Oh, great. Well, you've had a colourful career so far. Former Deputy Texas Attorney General, Deputy Assistant Attorney General, and tell us about your career. You went to Baylor, and that's where you got your...
Correct. I'm the
BBA?
first, given my sort of kind of rather humble family background, nobody had ever gone to college. And I'm the first to venture off beyond small town life and go to college. I went to Baylor and triple majored at Baylor undergrad, and then went to Duke University for law school and for graduate school. I got a master's in political science at the same time. I got my law degree.
Yeah, I was asking you about that, the AM as opposed to the MA.
That's right. That's right. Probably a quarter of my class, though, were getting graduate degrees along with their law degrees. I moved to Austin and clerked for a federal court of appeals judge for 1 year, and really liked Austin. So I stuck around and practiced law with a large major law firm in Austin for about 3 years, and then got an unexpected serendipitous phone call from then Governor Bush to come join his staff. This was 15 years ago, 1996. So for 7 years, I was a lawyer for first Governor Bush, and then presidential candidate Bush, and then President Bush.
Fantastic.
And so we were there for 7 years, either in Austin and back in early '03, and I became Deputy Attorney General under Greg Abbott.
Wow. Great move. I understand that that Tiffany is quite accomplished in her own right.
Absolutely.
Member of the Texas Senate?
Well, she actually worked. She was the legislative director for a state senator, Tom Haywood, from Wichita Falls. And then she, we were married right before the election, about 3 weeks before the presidential election in 2000. So we went to Washington, and she worked both years helping run the President's Leadership Program, the President's Commission on White House Fellowships, which took her all over the world.
That's fabulous. So you're very much a traveled family.
I try to be. Growing up in a small town of 32, you don't really see a lot. You aspire to a lot, and thankfully I've had jobs and opportunities that enable me to travel far and wide.
What do you think you bring from your small town to the big cities now and to the big state of Texas?
Well, certainly from my mom, you learn those really critical virtues of grit and tenacity and fortitude, and just the bottomless value of hard work. For example, in my judging job, I think I work harder and invest more hours in my current job than any job I ever have, including working at the White House,
Really?
which is an all-consuming proposition. But you get a lot of bang for your taxpayer buck with me. I think I invest more hours in this job than I have in any other job.
Well, you managed to survive the Washington gray hair. I'm not seeing any traces there.
I'm on a road to none rather than gray, I'm afraid.
Oh, no. Mine, I've got both. I say that my hair is waving. Mostly bye-bye.
Mostly bye-bye.
Yes. Well, you also have had worked very much in community projects. Lots of time that you've spent in community. How do you find the time for the community projects?
Since I joined the court, it's been tough. I do serve on a few boards, but really my whole life I've really cultivated a desire to give back. I know, coming from a pretty humble background, how favored my life has been, how blessed I've been, and I see serendipity and divine happenstance in every corner of my life, and I think it's incumbent on me to give back and to really.
That's good. That's good philosophy anyway. That's really marvelous. You've received some very honourable awards. Faith and Integrity in Legal Services Award, Austin Under 40 Award for Government and Public Affairs. Any others down there that we can show your accolades?
I'm about to receive an award from my alma mater from Baylor. It's the Price Daniel Distinguished Public Service Award. And
congratulations.
Which is very special to me. So I just try to keep my head down and try to do a good and noble job in whatever I'm focused on, and I'm grateful that people seem to acknowledge the hard work and the diligence I bring to my job.
And you're proud of your alma mater?
I am. Baylor's a wonderful place, a magical place, and I was blessed to serve or to spend 4 years there. Actually, 5 years.
5 years. Yes. Well, my son spent quite a few months in Austin as well, so it's some people takes a little longer than others.
That's right. I had a triple major, so it took me,
of course, yes. What were your majors?
Economics, finance, and public administration.
Really?
That's right.
Very interesting. Well, you've gone into a pretty good career.
I'm trying
then.
to persuade my wife to let me pursue a graduate law degree next spring.
Now, how are you going to fit all of that in?
It'll be tough. They vacuum pack a lot of study into a short window of time. So I'm trying to persuade her to let me go back to my alma mater, my law school alma mater, Duke, and pursue a graduate law degree in judicial studies.
And what about that Duke basketball
I tell you, if you ever get a chance to watch a live basketball game in Cameron Indoor Stadium, it'll change your life for the better. It's just a very steamy, claustrophobic, unair-conditioned, very loud and raucous place. And put that on your bucket list if you have one.
Oh, that's right. I will do indeed. Will do. So you're a native Texan and been on the Texas Supreme Court since when?
I was appointed August 24th of 2005.
Okay. And that was by
Governor Perry. That's right. I succeeded Priscilla Owen, a longtime dear friend of mine who left the court. She was confirmed to a federal judicial post. Okay. So I succeeded her. And in Texas, we elect our judges on a partisan ballot.
I was interested to read about that. The Supreme Court, it's made up of how many people?
There are 9 of us. There's a Chief Justice and then eight others. Mm-hmm. And I came along in August of 2005. And that court really stuck together. Those 9 members are the 9 longest-serving single court in Texas history. So from August of 2005 until roughly October of 2009, that is the longest-serving 9-member court in Lone Star history, meaning I was the longest-serving junior member of the court, the longest-serving number 9, the court caboose, longer than anybody has been. But
And you're now number 2.
Well, now number 7. I've rocketed 2 spots up to number 7.
But your title is place 2.
Place 2. I'm place 2, and coming soon to a ballot near you in March. But yeah, we all have our own specific place number. The Chief Justice is place 1, and I follow him at place 2.
Wow. And if what happens if the Chief Justice is not there? Do you take over as number 1 at that point?
No, it depends on when he leaves. It depends on the timing of his departure.
No, I meant if he's incapacitated at any time.
No, then the more senior member of my court, who's Justice Hecht, who's been on the court for about 23 years.
Okay.
He would have kind of assumed the duties. For example, if our Chief Justice is ever sick, or if he's traveling, unable to get back for a court session, then Justice Hecht will sit in the center chair and act as chief.
Now, why is there a Texas Supreme Court, and what does the Texas Supreme Court handle? What kind of cases?
Well, you need a official body of last resort, a court that really sits atop the pyramid, who can really declare emphatically and clearly what the law is from border to border across every county. So you need a final judicial voice who can declare with finality and be conclusive what the law really is. Now, we do have a separate high court for criminal matters. A lot of people don't realize that. We are one of only 2 states in the country that has a so-called bifurcated high court system. We have a separate high court for civil matters, the Supreme Court, and a separate high court for criminal matters called the Court of Criminal Appeals. So all the murders and the robberies,
they go to the
criminal high court. Now, my court has final say in juvenile criminal matters.
Interesting.
But not adult criminal matters. And it's really all a product of historical happenstance. That's really, we really have a almost Rube Goldberg designed judiciary. It's kind of Band-Aid upon Band-Aid. And it really is a very confusing structure. And people have tried nobly over generations to really simplify it and modernize it and bring it into at least the 20th century, if not the 21st. But they've really, those reform efforts have sadly sputtered. But we really have a confusing kind of judicial structure, really from top to bottom.
What types of cases, without going into specifics, of course, which you obviously cannot do, but what kind of cases are heard before the Texas Supreme Court?
A pretty dizzying array. You could have people who are disputing what a contract means. You could have, pardon my scratchy voice, a patient suing a physician or a hospital over a medical procedure that didn't turn out quite well. You could have a landowner whose property has been taken by government, and he or she may dispute whether it was taken for a valid public use.
Like eminent domain situations.
Correct, condemnation, eminent domain. And we get a really varied diet of cases at the court. But the lion's share of the members of our legislature pass in Austin. So they pass a statute, and we, the courts, do language means. Because often the language they pick isn't maybe especially clear or obvious on its face. And it falls to us to interpret and to apply that language, not to spruce it up or revise it, not to embellish it and try to improve upon it, but to really simply interpret it. What does it mean? And I'm known on my court probably as the most conservative member of my court. And I've taken an oath never to legislate from the bench, but to simply take language as I find it and interpret it and give it its fair meaning.
Which is rather confusing, especially between English and American English as well.
Right.
I have friends who are lawyers, barristers from Great Britain, and they have often said about the difference in the languages, even the legalese that we use, that is amazing.